Hi, this is Janai Moorhead with Foundation Consultants, and I'm going to be talking about another how I got into this. One of the things that I do for people is I help to start, manage, and develop their nonprofits. But it's one thing to help other people, but it's another thing to tell your own story. So I will say that this testimonial will go along with how I started um, with the shelter. If you all remember or see my page, I have one that shows how I started the shelter. And thank you so much for the thousands of views and the compliments that you have given me about uh, the inspiration that I have given you on that video. So, in starting, I have created a lot of courses, and I teach at a university also, and I've taught at several colleges, and I help people to start. And that's what I seem to do the best. But just telling you or showing you paperwork doesn't help anything. But to tell you that I have been through what you're going through, hopefully will help you. Officially, starting begins with an idea, and you have to get that idea out of your head. If it just stays in your head, it's nothing. But the process of getting out of your head may involve writing it down. And then from there, then you have to decide, okay, you figure some application process or something has to go on. And when it comes to the nonprofit world, there are several things that you have to do. And for that, I do have a course, but I will tell you that it is not an easy process, but it's not a hard process. It is an exact process. So I will tell you the emotional challenges that I have gone through and many of my clients have gone through to ease your mind if you ever decide to go through it. So I need my glasses. And so I'll tell you this that um, the steps of starting, um, this is exactly what many of my clients go through, and you may go through them too, is that when you start, you're scared. It's nail biting scared. Um, it's just not scared. It's like the unknown, scared of the unknown. Will I make it? Will I fail? I don't know what to expect. Okay. And then after I talk to my clients, because I do this for them, there is a temporary calm as I take them through the process. And this is just the paperwork process. This is not the business process. Because as you start to work in the nonprofit world, you will see that you will have to apply your entrepreneurial skills because it is a business. So then they go through number three as the organizational documents are start coming through, and you start getting the mail back, and so forth and so on. Then there's total elation, like yes, it's for real now. It's really real. You can see it. Okay, and then I tell them, okay, now you need a board of directors. You can already see my hair is going whack here, but I'm continuing with this video. My hair has a mind of its own today, most days. But anyway, so then I tell them, okay, we got some paperwork back, and your articles of incorporation are back, and so forth and so on. And then I tell them, all right, we need to um, gather up a board of directors. And then there's a real reality and a struggle because now you have to work with a team. And maybe you have never worked with a team before. And that is daunting to some people because some people go into the nonprofit business thinking that they're just going to do it by themselves. But the structure is not that way. And then I take people through the application process. And then after the application process is, I have notes. So after the application process is done, okay, then if you get, when you get your approval, then you are elated again. You're like, whoa! And then The next feeling, I know the next feeling is now going back to nail biting, because after you get the paperwork and you're a nonprofit, then you say, okay, what's next? All right. And the next is that you actually have a business to run, and that business has to have a model to make money. Okay. And so that is where I'm going to pick up my story, and hopefully I can encourage you. So the date of August 15th is forever stuck in my mind. And that is because that is the date that myself and other volunteers gathered around the calendar after we had gotten our 501c3 approval. And I was a lead, but I was not a director or anything like that. We had gotten our approval, and we all gathered around um, a desk, and we asked ourselves, okay, when are we going to start? And it was a few weeks, a couple weeks before, probably about the 1st of August, and we pointed to the calendar. I can't remember what year it was, but August 15th was a Monday. And we all took a big breath, and we said, okay, we'll start that day. And somebody said, start doing what? And I said, oh boy. Um, well, we'll figure out something, okay? And we didn't figure that out until the day we showed up. All we figured out was the day we were going to start and the office hours, because wherever we went with a church. And we started in one city. And when we first started, we just had a little, we just giving out a little bit of food. And we needed a private cupboard, and somebody built that cupboard, and that cupboard actually traveled with us everywhere. And the cupboard was low, but it was really long. And so, and it wasn't, it was built out of particle board. And so whenever we picked it up, it swayed back and forth. Okay. But if we sit it down against the wall, it was pretty solid. And so when we had traveled, in this new office space, that cupboard um, went with us. And so we also asked the church members to make sure that when they came to church, they would bring some canned goods um, and dry goods. And so we were doing that, but we knew we had to do more. So back to August 15th. When August 15th came, we all showed up at the office, and we looked at each other and we said, okay, one person said, well, the city offices are right across the street. And so I'll go over there and ask about grants and things like that. And that was important because we realized that we wanted to do more than food. We had said we wanted to go into housing. And the problem is we didn't have any money for housing. We did have as I told you, we did have property, and we donated that, and another person donated property. But we needed housing we needed money for operations. And the money from the houses were not bringing in. It was just enough for the repair and maintenance for that. So that person went across the street, and then that left me as the default manager of the office. And so I had 3 volunteers, and they all looked at me and said, what are we going to do? And I said, well, I have a contact book that's disorganized. I said, why don't, one person, why don't you organize that so we can get our contacts together, and then add more contacts. And then I put the 2 other ladies on to picking up the phone and calling around to the city to find out what other um, nonprofits were in the city. And then someone had the great idea of visiting these nonprofits, because really no one knew who we were. No one. We were just in a little office complex across the street from the city, and the church had temporarily moved there also, but no one knew. And so we said, well, what will we give people when they come? And we said, okay, we can give them the food. And then we can also take our new referral list and help people understand that there's more in the city that they can get for now. Okay, so that was the plan. And then the person who went over to the city offices came back all excited. And they said, hey, they got stuff over there. They got money over there. And they said, fill out these papers. And so they put them, just pushed them over to me. And I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. And that was like the first day or two. And so then we established our closing hours and we shut down. And about the third day, I was late coming into the office, but our volunteer secretary, we didn't have any paid staff. Our volunteer secretary called early in the morning. I was running late and said, remember those flyers you passed out? I have a line of people standing here. I could barely get in the door. And I was like, oh my God. Okay, what do we do? And uh, so we started, okay? And I said, okay, she said, what do we do? What do we do? And I said, start handing out that food and then collecting names, please. Have them sign a list or something so that that other people can know that we are helping. And that's really important that you collect data, you collect lists, you collect names, um, anything to let people know and show proof that you are actually helping. Now, when you're helping people with certain things, you certainly don't want to abuse their privacy with pictures. Maybe pictures from afar to show groups, if you're doing something big. But don't please don't take pictures of your food line or things like that. But if they're, an event picture, then that's fine too. Okay, it all depends on what it is. And so I rushed down there with some other volunteers, and we got in, and we had this little half door where we could open the top, and the bottom has a little ledge, and so that right there was an amazing day. It was amazing. And we talked to some people. They had our flyer in their hands, and we asked them, where were you when you got the flyer? Well, they were at the Goodwill, the Salvation Army, everywhere where we went, and let people know that we were in the area. They picked up the flyer. We went to the unemployment office, anywhere where people were in need of help. We went there. And so, yes, I did fill out the papers and I turned them in to the city. And lo and behold, I didn't know what was coming next. Okay. What was coming next was one of our biggest and first challenges. The city manager at that time um, had moved on. And so when we turned in the papers, there was a lapse of time, and the new manager did not know us. And so we had to convince the new manager that yes, we did apply for a grant and we are a viable business and we are doing something in the city. Okay. And so that was hard. That was really hard because the old manager did not leave in a good way, and we were the new kid on the block. And then the city had a lot of challenges, internal challenges. And so they weren't thinking about dealing with new people. They probably had on their mind dealing with the same people that they've always dealt with because it was just so much easier. Okay, all right. But that was my first taste in fighting against an establishment. And for the next 3 or 4 years, I fought against the establishment. So, what does that mean? So, we got turned down. The very first grant we got turned down, that one that our lead person handed to me, that was a turn down. But I made the biggest mistake of all because I was so sure, and listen to me very carefully, I was so sure that I got the grant and somebody had told me verbally from the city that I got the grant, that I started spending money. And that's a no no because I did not have a contract. So you can imagine when I went to find out how I can be reimbursed, they said, you don't even have a contract. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in a mess. Okay. Because we had spent a lot of money, because someone had told us, you got it. So please don't ever do that. Don't spend a drop. Do not spend any money unless you have a contract. So moving on, we went to see our mayor and his liaison, his administrator, and talked to him about it. And the mayor was very understanding, and he even apologized. Apparently, he knew what was going on in his city, and he brought in a risk manager. Now, a risk manager is a person that averts risk for the city and averts lawsuits. We had not even gotten there yet, but he saw that we were new, we were very sincere, and the city has done us wrong. So he sent a risk manager to our office to talk with us. And I showed him everything I spent money on. And I gave him the figure of $20,000, which was the grant amount. And he said, well, I see that you've only spent, I think he could only see about 11. And so I said, no, sir. And I showed him more. And he said, why don't we make an agreement? So we made an agreement for about $15,000. Okay. And so we shook hands, I signed the paper, and that's how we got our first grant. We did not get our first grant just by somebody handing over a check to us, right? So the city was very kind and understanding and looking at our receipts and understanding that they had internal problems. So now, for the next 3 or 4 years, we got turned down. For some reason or another, it was not easy. So the only way that I could get our money is to stand up shaking and scared and sometimes almost throwing up before I had to stand up to talk to the city council about why we should get money and the work that we've done in the city. And so for the next, 3 or 4 years, that's how we got funded because it was tough. And then after that, we established ourselves and we didn't have to do that again. Now, we've had some rough times here and there, but for the most part, we have established a good reputation. We're a faith based nonprofit, and we've also established ourselves with a good reputation, not only in our community, but with the people that we serve. And so that's so, so important. So instead of going through a lot of application processes and check mark boxes and stuff like that, I want to share with you the story of how I started. And I hope that you can start well too. My job is to take you through the process, so with all of my experience, so that you will avert, or I will help you to avert most of those things by giving you really good advice. And that's one of the things that my students tell me too, is that they like my experience when I tell them certain things, what to do, what not to do. They don't have to do it, but my job is to give you, as a consultant, good advice to make the road a little bit easier to travel. So, with that, this is Janai Moorhead with How I Started a Nonprofit. And please like, subscribe, and share this video. I hope it will help someone. And also, before I go, there are courses that I will have below in the link. Now, these have to do with the application process. Okay, the process of business planning, I have other courses for that too. But either way, I wish you well, and I hope to see you in one of my classes. This is Janai Moorhead of Foundation Consultants. You take care now.